All right, let's jump right in. We are about to solve a fantastic mystery from the world of wine. It's a story about one single grape that's living this incredible double life, a true chameleon hiding in plain sight in some of Spain's most famous bottles.
So, let's start with the central puzzle, right? On one hand, you've got this serious, complex, nutty white wine from Rioja that's built to age for decades. And on the other, you have this fresh, fun, celebratory sparkling wine, cava, just bursting with bubbles. I mean, they couldn't be more different. What could they possibly have in common?
Well, believe it or not, the answer is the grape itself. The very same grape variety is behind both of these completely different wine personalities. It's a master of disguise, you know? It changes its entire identity based on where it's grown and how the winemaker decides to treat it.
So it's time to pull back the curtain and finally reveal this grape's secret identity. We're going to get to know its names, a little bit of its history, and exactly what makes it such a superstar in the vineyard.
Okay, so meet Viura, or as it's known in other parts of Spain, Macabeo. Now, even though it might fly under the radar for a lot of people, this is arguably Spain's most important and widely planted white grape. Just remember those two names. In Rioja, they call it Viura, that's Viura, and over in Catalonia, it's Macabeo, Macabeo. Same grape, just a different regional name.
So what makes this grape so special? Well, think of these as its superpowers. First, it's incredibly versatile, which we're about to see. But this next one is crucial. It's naturally resistant to oxidation. And trust me, that's a huge deal. It's the secret sauce that allows those amazing white Riojas to age so gracefully. It also holds on to its acidity even when it gets hot, which keeps the wines fresh and vibrant. These qualities really make it a cornerstone of Spanish wine.
And the grape's history totally explains how it ended up on these two completely different paths. Now, it's got ancient roots in northeast Spain, but its big break really came in the late 1800s. After this devastating plague wiped out Europe's vineyards, winemakers in Rioja replanted with Viura because it was just so reliable. At the very same time, producers over in Catalonia chose it, as Macabeo of course, to be a core grape for their brand new sparkling wine, cava. See? Two regions, two totally different needs, one unstoppable grape.
Okay, now we get to the heart of it all, the dramatic contrast between this grape's two main personalities. This is where you really see its incredible adaptability in action. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, look at this. The contrast is just stark. In Rioja, Viura is made into these serious, complex white wines. They're often aged in oak barrels, which gives them a fuller body and those rich, nutty, spiced flavors. But then in Catalonia, as Macabeo, it's the complete opposite. It becomes light-bodied, fresh, and totally celebratory. Here, the aging happens inside the bottle to create those bubbles, which gives you a crisp, fruity, floral profile. It's almost hard to believe we're talking about the same grape.
I absolutely love this analogy because it just perfectly captures the grape's split personality. One side is the pensive, complex intellectual you'd find in a library. That's your aged white Rioja. The other is the vibrant, energetic life of the party, and that's your bubbly cava.
So, the big question is, why? How can one grape be so different? Well, the answer really lies in two key things: where it's grown and how it's made. Let's start with the power of place, or what the French famously call terroir.
Climate is a huge part of the story. Rioja gets this influence from the cool Atlantic Ocean, so it has a more moderate climate. This means the grapes ripen slowly, and that locks in high acidity and helps develop these delicate flavors of apple, pear, and flowers. Now contrast that with Catalonia, which has a warm, sunny Mediterranean climate. Here, the grape ripens more fully, developing much richer fruit notes like peach, ripe citrus, and melon. So you see, the personality is already being shaped before it even leaves the vine.
Then comes the winemaking, and it really comes down to a fork in the road. Two main paths. On the fresh route, which is used for cava and those young, unoaked Riojas, the juice is fermented in stainless steel tanks at cool temperatures. This is all about preserving that crisp, fruity character. But on the complex route, for aged white Rioja, the wine is either fermented or aged in oak barrels. That's what adds the texture, those layers of spice and nutty flavors, and gives the wine the backbone it needs to age for years and years.
Okay, so now that we understand the why, let's get practical. What should you actually expect when you pour a glass of one of these wines? Let's bring it out of the vineyard and right into your glass. Here's your guide. Let's break this down. If you pour a young, fresh Rioja, you're going to get hit with things like green apple and lemon, and it's just going to be super refreshing. Now, the aged style, that's a whole different animal. You're looking for toasted almond, honey, spice, and this full creamy texture.
And cava? That's all about zesty citrus, pear, and that lovely toasty brioche note you get from the bubbles, all wrapped up in a light, bubbly, fantastic package.
Of course, knowing the wine is only half the fun, right? The other half is pairing it with the perfect food. So let's talk about what you should eat with each of these styles to make them really, really sing.
For the light and fresh styles, that's your cava and your young Rioja, think clean and bright. Their high acidity is just fantastic for cutting through the richness of things like Spanish tapas, fresh oysters, or even sushi. It's also the perfect match for a light salad or simple grilled fish. The wine basically acts like a squeeze of fresh lemon, just elevating everything on the plate.
Now, for that rich, complex, aged white Rioja, you need to bring in food with enough weight to stand up to it. Its creamy texture and nutty flavors are just brilliant with something like roast chicken or turkey. It is an absolute dream with a creamy pasta or a savory mushroom risotto. And of course, it's a classic with Spanish cured cheeses like manchego. The key here is to match the weight of the wine to the weight of the dish.
So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that when you see Viura or Macabeo on a wine label, you're not just looking at one grape. You're looking at a key that can unlock a whole world of completely different flavors and styles, from the simplest, freshest sipper to one of the most complex and profound white wines on the entire planet.
And that leaves us with one final question. Which face of Viura will you discover next? Will it be the sophisticated intellectual in a bottle of aged white Rioja? Or the life of the party in a bottle of bubbly cava? Honestly, either way, you're in for a fantastic discovery. Cheers to exploring the many faces of Viura.